Hello everyone, it's Benny, and welcome to the 3D Game Programming Tutorial Series. In this series, we will be building several 3D games. That's right, not just one 3D game. We're going to be making multiple 3D games almost entirely from scratch. But wait a minute, Benny. There's already tutorials like this. There's already series that go on and on about how do you make a game. So, what's the point of this? What is this doing that's different from anything else out there? Well, if you've seen any of those series, you might have noticed there's a little bit of a pattern that's brilliantly captured by this tweet from Brandon Jones. Yeah, there's tutorials on how to set up a game programming project. They might even show you how to make a basic toy game. But then there's a follow-through. Then there's the rest of the frickin' owl. And that's where this series comes in. Because the thing is, a lot of those series aren't really focused on game programming so much as they are, hey, here's how to do technology X. We're not here to show you how to do technology X. We're here to show you how to program games, full stop. If it doesn't directly lead to finishing a game, it doesn't get in the series. And that's why we're going to be doing things a little bit differently than most things out there. In fact, very importantly, I'm going to be showing you things in a way that's applicable even to completely different games and designs. It's all general. And in fact, that's one of the reasons we are doing more than one game. So I can show you, hey, this technique I showed you for game development, it really does work for this game and this totally different game. And it's probably going to work for that crazy game idea you have in your head that's totally different from anything else out there. That's the point of this series. That's what we're doing differently. And yeah, that's what I have to say. So let's go ahead and let's go straight into it. So, task 1 along our game development journey is project setup. Yeah, I know it's a little dull and tedious, but unfortunately it is necessary. Don't worry though, I've tried to make this as quick and painless as possible, so hopefully we can just breeze through this and go straight into, well, creating a game. So, in the video description, you'll find a link to this GitHub repository. As it says here, yeah, this is the base code. This is where we're going to be starting our project. And yeah, this should work on pretty much every platform, whether you're Mac, Windows, or Linux, which is one of the reasons I've done this, so yay cross-platform. It is in C++, which, by the way, don't be scared of C++. C++ is just like Java or C#. Just pay attention when you use the word new. So don't be intimidated by that. It's not going to be a huge deal. So yeah. So in terms of actually building this, the first thing you're going to want, obviously, is your C++ environment, which on Windows is probably Visual Studio, Mac, probably Xcode, and Linux is pretty much its own development environment, so you don't really need to worry, but you can use code blocks if you really want to use something. And, well yeah, so that's pretty much what you need to set up. You also need the dependencies, which, right here, if you click on the link, it'll take you to the website, so you don't have to go hunting all over the world to find these. Here's the website, there's the download, you can follow their instructions to set up. And yeah, just make sure you have those set up. Especially CMake. If CMake isn't working, you're not going to get very far, let's just say that. And there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and just give you a quick demonstration, because that's pretty much all there is to it. Once you have that set up, there's a really straightforward set of build instructions. On everything but Windows, it's literally just a single command to build the project. And Windows, you have a few more steps, but it's still pretty straightforward. So I'll just go ahead and give you a quick demonstration. So you can either clone from this link if you have Git installed, or you can download as a zip, doesn't particularly matter. And I have an empty folder here. So I'm going to clone because it doesn't make a difference, it all leads to the same end. And as you see in the instructions, on Linux, which I am currently working on, it is literally just a single instruction. Just run this, and the project builds. So I'm going to open a terminal here and just run that. I already have all the dependencies installed, so don't worry. But actually there's a command for that if you don't do it. On Linux, you can just write on this command to install all the dependencies. And on Mac, you also have a command you can run to install all the dependencies. So that's really nice. It's only Windows where you have to sort of go through the whole pain of setting everything up individually. So, sorry Windows users, there's no magic command for you. But yeah, the project is built. So, again, now it's really simple. Their executable is called CGFX5, so I run that. And this is what you should be seeing if everything builds and runs correctly. At this point, though, you might have a bit of a question. You might say, hang on a second, Benny. Hang on. I thought you said this is going to be, quote, almost from scratch. This does not look very from scratch at all. I'll talk more about that in just a moment, but the short answer is, this code is based on the code from my Intro to Modern OpenGL tutorial series, just refactored a little bit. So, yeah, you can do this completely from scratch. You'll just have to follow along that series to do this initial code. The reason we're not doing it in this series is because, well, setting up OpenGL is outside the scope of this series, so it's not being covered here. But anyways, let's talk about if for some reason this isn't what happens. If somehow the process goes wrong for you. If not, there's a few things you can do. There are manual build instructions if you scroll down. They're a little bit more involved, but they might work around whatever issues you're having. If that still doesn't work, then I think it's worth pointing out that all these dependencies, every single one of them, they have special instructions and special resources for helping people set them up. So I would recommend looking into that, because they're going to know a lot more about how to install their dependency properly than I am. But finally, if you're still having trouble, I do have a Discord channel. It is linked in the video description, and it talks about a lot of things, but among other things, there is a Help Me channel. And from there, you can ask people, and hopefully someone there can help you out and point you in the right direction as to why things aren't quite working out for you. So there you go. That is the project setup. And at this point, I'd like to talk more about this base code. I'd like to start by mentioning you aren't required to understand the base code to follow the series. We're only going to be using this base code, not writing it. So, if everything I'm about to say goes completely over your head, no worries. This section is mostly intended for people who just like having an idea of what the base code is doing, or are possibly interested in following the Intro to Modern OpenGL tutorial series so they can create their own version of this. So like I said, 90% of this base code is just the code from the Intro to Modern OpenGL tutorial series, except refactored. Specifically, the big refactor is all the OpenGL code has been moved to this single backend class. And the reason for this is now all that code no longer depends on OpenGL. Now we could easily add in, say, DirectX support or Vulkan support. All we'd have to do is submit a different version of this class, and the whole project just works with it. So, yeah, that's the big difference. Now, all the classes we created in that series are now calling functions from this. That also means if for some reason you do want to create your own version of this base code from scratch, by following along with that series, you'll probably want to keep this header file handy so you know, hey, this is what the final refactoring ultimately looks like. And yeah, that is the big refactoring. There's a few other minor things, like I renamed a couple things, and I did some of the OpenGL features slightly differently, but that's by far and away the big change. That's 90% of the base code. The final 10% is, well, 5% is more wrappers like that for SDL and a few standard library functions. And the other 5% is change in dependencies. Now we have RapidJSON as a dependency. That way we can load and save JSON files. And we've replaced GLM with a custom 3D math library so that we can take advantage of, well, the super fast vector instructions that modern CPUs have, that for some reason compilers will not use by default. And yeah, that's pretty much what the base code is. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in this setup video. So thank you very much for joining me. But one final detail, actually, that's very important, is the license. This is all open source. Everything that I'm going to cover in this series, open source code. So you're pretty much free to do whatever you want for it. It's open source under the MIT license. What you can't do is you can't sue me, and you have to give me credit for what code I did by this copyright notice here. Say, hey, this code either comes from Benny or is based on Benny's code. There you go. That's pretty much it. So, notably, because I know this question is going to come up, yes, you are completely free to take this code, use it to build your own games, and sell it and do whatever. You don't owe me anything in that case. You can make games with this, sell it, do whatever. And that's all the setup. Thank you very much for joining me. But this does bear the question. Now that we have this awesome project set up, how exactly do we make games with this? Find out next time. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learned, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you. See you then.